Y'all ready? Roy said he's up. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll call the January 18th, 2022 regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Commissioners to order. We're going to start with the invocation by Minister Wayne Robertson of the Greenwood Presbyterian Church in Reedsville. That will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance from Jeff Bullins, former mayor of Mayodan. Mr. Robertson, if you come forward, and everyone please rise.
Inviting me to come and share prayer with you tonight. Appreciate it. Let us pray. God, we thank you for this day, for those who work so hard to clear our streets and roads. We give you the thanks for all the hours they put in. And we thank you for sending that sun out today to help melt some of that ice and snow that we are experiencing. Remind us of troubles that come into our lives sometimes, and trials and troubles and all kinds of situations. And we look to you to be the light, just like the sun melts the snow and ice. You take away our troubles if we put our faith and trust in you. And we thank you for being a God who cares for us that much. As we look about our country, we pray for those who are suffering from the dreaded COVID disease that has been so prevalent for almost 2 years now. We thank you for the progress that has been made in treating this disease, and that you will soon be able to get rid of it for us, for only you can do that. You work miracles. We see them every day, and we thank you for that. We ask that you would be with the leaders of our country, of all countries, as they go about leading us in whatever direction you see fit to have them do. We thank you for giving them the wisdom and the knowledge and the ability to do such things as that. And tonight we pray for our own local government here at the county commissioners here at Wentworth as they govern our county. And we thank you for each and every one of them and the time they put in to do that. We thank you for your son, Jesus Christ, who you sent to live among us and teach us about who we are as your children and who you are as our God. You loved us so much that you sent him to be that perfect sacrifice to save us, something we can't do our own selves. Be with us now as the meeting goes on, and as we depart here, that you would keep us safe till we get back into our homes. For it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you for this honor, and if you would recite with me, please, the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Certainly thank both of y'all for volunteering your time for that. Ladies and gentlemen, we do work from a prepared agenda. Gentlemen, you've had the agenda sent to you, I believe, about a week ago. Do we have any additions or modifications to the agenda?
Chair, I make a motion that we approve the agenda for tonight.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Hall. Do we have a second by Commissioner Richardson? All in favor, let it be known by the sound of aye. Aye. Next is the consent agenda. And if anyone has any questions about items on the consent agenda, please contact the county manager's office, and either he or his staff will be glad to answer any questions concerning those items or forward information to you. If everyone is okay with items under the consent agenda, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Powell. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Hall. All in favor, let it be known by the sound of aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next is the public comment period. We do have one person signed up for public comment. We do have some rules that pertain to the public comment period. Mr. Metzler, if you would go ahead and read out those rules, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair. The public comment shall be for the purpose of allowing members of the public to speak, to present any matter pertaining to county business or items on the Board of Commissioners' agenda. This period shall not serve as a forum for debate with the Board of Commissioners. Remarks shall be addressed directly to the Board of Commissioners, not to the audience, the staff, or media. The chairperson will open the public comment period. Any speaker who wishes to speak shall approach the podium and not speak from his or her seat. Each speaker shall clearly state his or her name and physical address when he or she approaches the podium. Any citizen desiring to present any matter concerning the services, policies, and affairs of Rockingham County shall be allotted 3 minutes. Citizens will be allowed to yield their time on a specific topic by utilizing one more attendee's time. This will allow no more than 6 minutes. Your time will be displayed on the monitor in front of you. The time clock will start with 3 minutes and less yielded time to 6 minutes. You will hear a beep at 1 minute to alert you to wrap up your comments. If you already yield your time or time is yielded to you, then please let the chairman know in advance. Speakers appearing before the Board of Commissioners will not be allowed to campaign for public office, promote private business ventures, or use a language of personal nature which insults or demeans any person or which, when directed at a public official, is not related to his or her official duties. The Board of Commissioners may accept written comments in lieu of oral statements. Written statements can be delivered to the county manager's office. Mr. Chair?
Thank you. And Brad Kendrick. You would come down, state your name and the microphone and your address, please.
My name is Brad Kendrick. I live at 1303 Hawthorne Avenue in Reidsville, North Carolina. I'm here to speak briefly about item number 8, where it's talking about matching the budget for the HVAC system at the Mark Center. I don't know how much you're aware of it, but also in the evening times, in the fall, and a lot during the springtime, the Hotbox robotics program is held there in the basement. We have competitions throughout the months of March, sometimes May. We're having 2 competitions in March this year across North Carolina. We're representing Rockingham County. This is a high school event that is held from all Rockingham County high schools are able to participate. My son goes to Reidsville. We have several from Michael, the early college, who attend there. This is a great program for the kids to learn entrepreneurship and lighten their minds onto robotics, pneumatics, hydraulics, anything in the mechanics fields, and to explore their futures of where they want to go in engineering or design. This is my first year involved in it as kind of an entrepreneurship program with them with working on mechanics. I lead the mechanics side of it. We have a design team and a computer programming team. A lot of parents are involved in it. We have people, this program's been there since 2008. We've been at Marks now for about 4 to 5 years is where we're located now. We will have to move our facility if that center is closed and put up for demolition, which I've heard if the funding does not come through for this HVAC system. So I'm just trying to put a little add in that there's more that goes on in this program just in the museum that people are aware of, and hope that the program can continue there because the students thoroughly enjoy it, and I know that my son and I will be continuing to go back to the program. Thank you.
Thank you. No one else signed up for public comment. Next is public hearings. First item for public hearing. Lynn, are you taking care of this, or? Okay.
Good evening, gentlemen. It's good to see you all. Most of you all. Mr. Travis can't be here tonight. I have one rezoning case that I'd like to discuss with you. Our director couldn't be here today. Of course, there's an update right when I want to present. All right. The planning board heard this case last week, which is unusual in sort of pushing it from 1 week apart, but this had been delayed from December, originally scheduled in December, and we felt like as a courtesy to the citizen, we'd try to do it this way. The planning board did vote 6-0 unanimously to recommend approval of the rezoning. The case is 2021-25, located on NC Highway 65, just about a quarter of a mile down from Hospice, which is right at the corner. It's in the Wentworth Township. This is a straight rezoning, no conditions. This is our vicinity map. Quite close to Wentworth itself. The acreage for the parcel itself is about 1 acre exactly. It was purchased by the applicants in December. This is the zoning in the area. The request is for zoning from RP to RA. You can see there's a mix of RP, RA, some industrial, and that OI parcel is Hospice that's at the corner there. This is just a water features and aerial map. There's nothing significant as far as geography goes on this parcel. Oh, I'm sorry, that industrial site down the road, I believe is the old Smith Carolina site, if I'm not mistaken. This is the land use plan map. It's colored green. This area is G1, which is one step above O2, which is rural. G1 is essentially targeted for low-density residential growth over the next 15 to 20 years. It is located, if you'll notice, there's a nexus, this purple dot near the top of the map. That's sort of a crossroads nexus that was identified in the land use plan for limited commercial development over time in the future. But overall, the G1 class is characterized by low-density residential development. Policy G1 encourages residential development to be located in areas surrounding these existing rural crossroads that have been identified. And the land use plan suggests that G1 areas should generally be zoned residential, agricultural, and housing variety is a target major goal of the land use plan from page 88. I don't believe the applicant is here this evening. It's fairly straightforward. The applicant would simply like to make use of the allowances in residential agricultural that are not allowed in residential protected. That's the reason for the request. We're glad to answer any questions if you have any.
Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. If not, we will open the public hearing. No one signed up to speak on this public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to speak from the audience? If not, then we will close the public hearing. Gentlemen, do we have any questions or do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move approval of case number 2021-25 with the associated condition.
Okay. Have a motion by Commissioner Richardson. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Powell. All in favor, let it be known by the sound of aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. The next item is consider partial abandonment of Victory Hill Church Road. I believe Mr. Morris.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is again for the considered partial abandonment of SR 1348, Victory Hill Church Road, Madison Township. This is required by statute. The board passed it previously in a previous of a meeting, passed a preliminary resolution expressing their intent on this road, on this partial abandonment. Per statute, the public hearings be held tonight. Anybody who wishes to speak or any evidence that need to be presented will be done so tonight, and then the board will consider for a vote.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
if I may, just for transparency, I just want to make the board and those listening aware our company, which I'm a partner in, is currently under contract with the Carroll Companies in another county. The outcome of this vote will not affect that. It doesn't affect me one way or the other. But I do, just as a matter of transparency, I will let the board know that that is my situation. If the board votes to recuse me, that would be fine. But otherwise, I don't feel that there's any benefit to be derived to me or my company based on the outcome of this vote. But I just want to make you aware of it.
Okay. Well, thank you. Mr. Morris, you've got anything, or do you have anything based on what Commissioner Hall has said?
No other than I know you as city members of the board understand that there's a high duty to vote unless there is a direct or indirect financial gain to a member as a result of voting on the case, then there's no problem.
Okay. All right. Does anybody have any questions of Mr. Hall based on that disclosure? If not, then, okay, we will move on and, excuse me, open the public hearing portion of this. So we've opened the public hearing. We do have two people that have signed up to speak during the public hearing portion. Mr. Manager, do you have some rules to read out as far as people speaking during the public hearing?
It's similar to the ones that we had for the public comment period. Basically, the individual will have 3 minutes allotted to them. If they have time yielded, they were yielded up to 6 minutes. Your time will be displayed on the monitor in front of you. You'll hear a beep with 1 minute left. If you already yield time, let the chairman know. Again, as you can't campaign for office, promote private business, or use language of personal nature which insults or demeans any person, which, when directed at a public official, is not related to his or officials as their official duty, And the board can accept any written commentary to the county manager's office if you prefer. Mr. Chair.
Thank you. First person that signed up was Anna, is it Beliski? Hope I didn't, did I get that right? Okay, well, come on down.
My name is Anna Belinsky. I'm at 741 Bennett Road in Stoneville. My residential road connects to this road. I oppose the road abandonment. Thank you, Commissioner, for your transparency. It's concerning that this request comes 6 months after land ownership by a resident of Guilford County that does not live in the area or daily drive this road. I do want to provide some photos from 2 weeks ago in the snow on the exact portion requesting to be closed, and again from 2 days ago. These are hard copy photos. They are. Okay, I'm sorry. As you can see, this road is frequently traveled, even when conditions are not ideal. My point is this. This road is a connector road. It's been a public graveled road that predates 1930. It's older than any of us here in this room. Existing roads are essential for travel and for emergency services, especially in the most rural parts of our counties. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, Mr. Roy Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, fellow commissioners. It's an honor and privilege to be before you tonight and talk about a piece of land that we acquired a little bit over a year ago. My family and I were looking for a place just to get away and build a stable and raise some horses and maybe a vegetable garden for my wife. And we were looking at a couple hundred acres, and one thing led to another, and I ended up with a couple thousand acres in this beautiful county. So I'm honored and blessed to be here, and we're looking forward to putting down some deep roots here. But tonight what we're here to talk about is an area of our property that is bifurcated with Victory Hill Church Road. And when we first bought the property, one of the first things that I did is I hired a land planning group to show me where to put the stable. I'm used to dealing with 10 acres and 100 acres. When you got thousands of acres, I just didn't want to mess it up. It's too beautiful a piece of property. It's rolling. And so this group came in and they mapped out the entire property, looked at topo and all the soils and everything else. And they identified the best place to put a stable, equestrian center, is right there on Victory Hill Church Road. That's some of the flattest property of all the thousands of acres. And so the problem with Victory Hill Church Road and it remaining open is it's a straight, long dirt road. Very little traffic on it. You could literally go out there and have lunch in the middle of the road and probably be okay. But the problem is we've bought a little house that's about north of there, about a mile, and at night we'll be sitting outside on the back porch there and we hear gunfire. We pick up at least a bag of beer cans every week. And I'm concerned about putting investment there and having horses and people shooting guns late at night. And I like to shoot guns too, but it's not, a public road is not a good place to shoot guns, and especially if you got valuable horses sitting around in pastures and such. So I think this makes a lot of logic. You still have Highway 77 that goes around the property. It's about a 3 to 4 minute additional drive. But again, we're just here to ask you for your support and the closure of this road, and I'm glad to make myself available to any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, no one else signed up. Is there anyone else that would like to speak at this time for or against this? Seeing no one else, we will close the public hearing. Does anyone have any questions, comments?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I would have one comment. This has come up before this board before as a request from DOT, and it has been turned down before by previous members of this board based on the fact that we didn't want to take up or ask private citizens to take up the cost of maintaining the road. But DOT's position is this road is not necessary, and apparently they no longer wish to maintain it. I would have a question regarding, Anna, if I may call you that, about your easement, your connection to this road. Is that your property?
It is. Our personal residence, my personal resident road connects to this road, Victory Hill Church Road. Goinstown and Goins School Road also connects to my road, which this road, Victory Hill Church Road, runs into. So I have two roads connected to Victory Hill Church Road. My personal residence road, and then a road that connects to my road.
Okay.
And this road is traveled frequently by the locals.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any further questions? All right. Hearing none, do we have a motion?
Well, I would have a question of Mr. Carroll regarding an easement for this road that's connected. Anna's personal road to Victory Hill Church.
Victory Hill Church Road is a fairly long road, and the portion that we're talking about is 0.3 of a mile. That's in Rockingham County, and it's dirt road, and I own all the property around that and have done extensive title searches. I'm not aware of any easements that come out on the portion of the Victory Hill Church Road that we're talking about here tonight.
I think what you're saying is you own all the property on either side of this 0.3 chunk of road.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any further questions of Mr. Carroll or manager or anyone else? Okay. Hearing none, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Commissioner Powell?
Make a motion that we approve the closing of this 0.3 miles of Victory Hill Church Road.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the closing of the 0.3 miles section of Victory Hill Church Road. Do we have a second?
You do.
All right. Second by Commissioner Richardson. All in favor, let it be known by the sound of aye.
Stand by one.
Yes, sir.
I would make the point at this time, the reason it says partial abandonment is this road extends into Stokes County, and our actions tonight do not affect Stokes County.
Yes, sir, that's correct. It only impacts the portion that's in Rockingham County.
My second remains.
Okay. So all in favor, let it be known by the sound of aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Next is Matthew Ticknick. I'll let you pronounce that one. The Mark Executive Director, and Mr. Bullins. I believe y'all are next on the agenda.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
It's Titchener, so almost there. Thank you for giving the museum the opportunity to speak tonight. We are speaking about the sustainability project for the 1907 historic courthouse. Just a recap, we've been working on this since 2018 to try and raise funds to renovate the historic HVAC and plumbing throughout the building. And we fortunately were awarded grants from the National Endowment for the Humanities in December. That was for $162,500. We were one of only 13 institutions in the US selected for this challenge grant, and we did receive federal recognition for that as well. And that represents a quarter of the project cost for the HVAC, which I'll go into in the next slide. But I just want to say thank you to LKC Engineering for assisting in preparing that grant as well, and Lance Metzler for making that connection. The project itself is estimated as $750,000, $650,000 of which is for the HVAC and an additional $100,000 for the roof and plumbing repairs. What we are requesting for the Commission is to accept the National Endowment for the Humanities grant and to be the match for that grant at a 3-to-1 ratio, which would work out to be $487,500. The additional $100,000 the Mark would commit to raising ourselves through challenge grant and other means for those roof and plumbing repairs. We have been back and forth over the last 2 years with the county, and this, after carefully considering relocation and new build options and lots of other options on the table, is the most cost-effective approach. This building can't be replicated elsewhere in the county, and we use 7,000 plus square feet of archive space, which is invaluable in the old deed of record vaults that we have in the building. It is the first overhaul of the HVAC system since the 1970s. Some of it is older. And so with plumbing and roof repairs, it will serve to see fit to serve the Mark for many years to come. The utilities and general maintenance will be reduced because of a new system as well, allowing for a more reliable county budgeting each year, as well as for our own utility costs. And the county, as a result, will gain a high-quality museum. We will continue preserving the county's history and providing varied programs that uplift the county as a whole. We bring tourism to the area and offer a wide range of educational and research services to the public, which we believe is valuable. The proposed timeline of the project, this is taken from the NEH grant that was submitted. This was submitted by LKC Engineering on behalf of the county or with the county's help. Shows that we wouldn't be looking to open until October of 2023, given the timescale. And as part of the lead up to this, we submitted a financial sustainability plan, which we believe sets out the Mark's ability to fundraise operational costs over the next 5 years, 2022 to 2026. And that takes into consideration the fact that we will be partially closed during some of that whilst the HVAC repair is carried on now. That is given from the track record of the last 10 years of our ability to raise between 100 and 120,000 every year for operations. That doesn't take into consideration the special projects which we have raised funds for, such as High Rock Historic Ford Park and Troublesome Creek Ironworks, which is in the process to become another historic park. This feeds into our strategic plan, which we are committed to continue achieving our mission and expanding our vision whilst the HVAC work is being carried out. And this is much less of a risk than the Mark was 10 years ago when the county put their faith in the vision, an untested concept at the time between 2008 and 2012. And we, of course, wish to continue the mutually beneficial partnership between us and the county for years to come. And I'd just like the chance to acknowledge the National Endowment for the Humanities, the Marion Stedman Covington Foundation that gave us the initial $25,000 grant to kickstart the project, and LKC Engineering. Thank you for your time. We're happy to take your questions.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Hall.
Yes, I have several concerns that I think we need to talk about. And as you mentioned, the museum has been there for 10 years. The county has given the building for the museum. That's 43,000 square feet for a period of 10 years, basically for free. The county has additionally paid $50,000 a year to the museum to help cover heating, air conditioning, power bills. Additionally, we've provided about $10,000 a year in maintenance for the building. When you birth a child, you take care of it. You have to do everything. You have to feed it. You have to change its clothes, everything. as a child grows, it becomes more independent. It can walk on its own. It learns to run, and eventually you kick it out of the house, and it's able to stand on its own. I'm not suggesting that we're doing that, but what I am concerned with is that after 10 years, the county still represents the largest single benefactor to the museum, and we're 38% of your projected income for this year, and pretty close to that for the next several years. I'm concerned that, you know, we would like to see more support from the community to be able to, for you to have you to do more. The other concern I have is we're just talking about the HVAC right now, but we know that there are other needs that you're going to have. You're going to have roofing needs. You're going to have parking lot needs. You're going to have plumbing needs. And I'm very concerned that you're able to raise funds to take care of those things. I feel like the county's been very generous in helping the museum to get started and then continuing to support it. But I just have concerns with the ability to raise funds for those other issues. Could you answer that possibly, Jeff?
Well, to the best of my ability, I'll try. As Matthew said as part of his presentation, we think this is less of a risk now going forward than it was 10 years ago when the commissioners voted to allow the museum to use the property. At that time, we had no idea what our capability was of fundraising. You know, this organization had not, there wasn't an organization to operate a museum before that time. So now we have a track record, and our track record shows that we can consistently raise between $100,000 and $120,000 a year. Now that is, like you said, the $50,000 that we get from the county commissioners is roughly a third of that, depending on what year you look at and, you know, what our expenses were. You know, when that number was created, there was no linkage between that amount and anything to do with the operations of the museum. It was derived by somebody studying the needs of the building per se to keep it in a usable condition. It was estimated to cost $50,000 a year, and so that was the number that was derived. The museum had no way of knowing or projecting what its expenses were going to be at that time. So now we know that if we continue to operate in the same space, trying to conduct the same amount of programs or events, the things that generate expenses for us, if it's at the same level, then that $50,000 will be a higher percentage than what you say that you would like to see. Going forward, we want to be a more active museum. We want to do more things that the public would benefit from, that would draw people to the county. We're one of the largest tourist attractions in Rockingham County. And to do that, we will need to spend more. And when we spend more, we're going to have to raise more, and that will reduce the percentage of the county's contribution at that point, because we anticipate, or our hope is, that we don't have to come back and ask for more money from the county commissioners. We have really appreciated the partnership that we've had with the county commissioners over these years that we've been in operation. We couldn't have done it without the county. We think that we have brought you a quality museum at a very or a relatively low cost. If you compare it to other museums in other counties, I think you'll find that we operate very efficiently. And we have taken it as a challenge. You know, that $50,000, we have tried to use that to leverage other benefits. In other words, we have worked with Duke Energy through some of their programs to reduce the energy cost in the building. Well, when we did that, that reduced our expenses, which actually raised the percentage of the contribution. So, you know, there are things that are in play that we think have indicated our value to the county, and can't predict the future, but if our past results are any indication, we think we can continue that into the future.
Thank you. And if I may continue.
Yes, sir.
And I appreciate that. And to your point regarding the 5-year sustainability plan, we appreciate you providing that. I know Lance and I had met with you guys back in, what was February or March, and you guys put that together this year for us. We appreciate that, because one of our big concerns, if we put close to $500,000 into that building, which will be for the museum, we want to ensure that you guys are operating. We can't spend that kind of taxpayer money and then in a year, 2 years, 3 years, have you guys go away. So I think we just need to be sure we're spending taxpayer money wisely.
And that's understandable. I have a personal understanding of that as well as a somewhat professional understanding of that as well, being in a similar situation as each of you. Know what it's like to handle public funds and know what it means to our constituents to handle it wisely. And I think you're getting good value in the Museum and Archives of Rockingham County. And I'll point out, too, we're not the only occupant of the building. We share the space with HotBots and with WeCare. And would I be out of line to ask people who are supporting this to raise their hands at this time? Is that allowable?
Well, I mean, I think you're welcome to do that, but, I mean, there's 92,000 residents, so
Right.
it's kind of hard for us to see all of them.
Right, and I understand that. But these people made an effort to come out tonight,
Yes.
especially during a pandemic and under icy conditions. So if you're here and you support this item number 8 on the agenda, if you would raise your hand, please. I think we've got a pretty good showing of people, and of course, there would have been more if the weather had been a little less treacherous. Thank you for being here, and thank you for showing us support.
One more question, Mr. Chair. To that end, like I said, we're looking at about almost 500,000, but we know there are other issues. So my feelings are, should this board choose to do that, and as I've mentioned to you, somehow we need to bookend that. We need to be able to have everyone's expectations that if we do this is it. You guys are going to need to raise money for these other things as they come up. So I just want to make that statement. That's my personal feeling. The board hasn't ruled on it, but my personal feelings are that we need to have some kind of bookend to know that this is what we're paying, and we're not going to put more taxpayer money other than the continued support that we continue to do in the $50,000 a year plus $10,000 in maintenance.
I can only promise that we'll try to do everything that we can with the money that the county commissioners may approve tonight to avoid having to come back again. There is the possibility in the future of, there's been talk about using the building in ways that makes it more accessible to people, to have different types of events there, to allow the public, larger numbers of the public to be there. We've had events ourselves that our space is limited. We think that if there was some reconfiguration in some space, we could have larger events. So there is the possibility in the future of us coming back and talking to the county about making some modifications to or remodeling of the building that would achieve those ends, and we expect to participate in raising the funds for that. And if it's something that the county liked and wanted to participate, they can. So I'm not going to rule out their participation in the future, but I'm also, I can't say that we'll never come back, but our goal is not to unless there's something that is mutually agreeable and mutually beneficial.
I just want to be clear as an individual that this is my feelings.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Commissioner Powell?
Yes, sir. So let me just say that I have a vested interest in that building because I worked over there for quite some time.
Oh, good, okay.
Recently toured that because I had not been in there for many years. So my concern is that you understand that the reason the county built a new courthouse is because this had become a maintenance nightmare, and we didn't want to inherit any more bills from this building. And so tonight, if we do this, we're spending almost $500,000 to help put HVAC in, and I hear you saying we may come back for more. From my part, I support Mark, and I support the museum, but if we'd have wanted to keep the building and we pay for it, we just wouldn't have built a courthouse. You understand what I'm saying? We don't. If it wasn't good enough, if it's not good enough to house the courthouse today, then maybe it's not good enough to house the museum. And so, if we do this, we've got to make sure that we're not coming back in a year or two and asking for another $500,000, because the county residents aren't going to accept that. And so, you think that if we take action tonight and you're prepared to go forward with this building and take care of the repairs that it may need. So if you want to my personal feelings are, so the board is not ruled, but if you want to go in there and redo it to make additional space or something, I'm glad for you to do that, but I don't think the county residents are going to be really glad to have to help pay for it. So you're prepared tonight to take over this building should this board decide to do this, and you can help handle those costs. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
I'm saying that we will partner with the county to work on making it a building that the county is comfortable with in terms of how it's used. And if it's something that's going to benefit the museum, we are going to be the lead on trying to raise the money for that.
Now, did I understand from your presentation that it's going to be 2 years before you open? Is that?
Yeah, this
is
is, one thing that was talked about. We were here 22 months ago.
Right.
Spoke to the commissioners then, and there was talk of, are we talking about a Band-Aid or are we talking about a fix? This is a fix. This is a major HVAC. It's not just a repair, it's a replacement of the system. It's a modernization of the system in all of the space that we use. So, yes, it's going to mean that the building is not properly environmentally controlled for a period of time. And on our side, operationally, that hurts us in any number of ways. But one of the main things we're concerned about is a lack of air conditioning related to our archives and our artifacts. So we're already in the process of determining how we can protect what we have during this period of time that we're closed and have no HVAC system. But yes, it is a serious thing to be closed for such a long period of time, but it's necessary. And getting back to what you were saying about if you could still use the building, the county would still be in it. Well, the use is completely different from what it was then. At that time, you had hundreds of people coming in every day. We don't have hundreds of people. Sometimes we have dozens of people. And one of the reasons that we are having HVAC problems is it was designed to operate under a much heavier load than what we've ever put under it. So put it under. So there have been stresses on the system while we've been there that didn't exist when the county was there. So it'll be sized properly for what we're looking at going forward. The building is very suitable for a museum with the vaults. One of the reasons that we really couldn't consider moving to another building or even building new would be too expensive for our needs. But moving to any other place does not have the vaults. Those Register of Deed vaults and the Clerk of Court vaults are wonderful for artifact and archive storage. So we think that, and it's not unusual too, if you go to lots of other counties, you'll find museums in old courthouses. So this is not unusual, and it's not the first time that it's happened. So we're not setting any precedents here and not using a building in a different way.
Well, what I was trying to point out is that from the county standpoint, we didn't want to inherit any more bills from this building. The reason you're having air conditioning problems is because it's 50 years old. That's why you're having air conditioning problems. But there are other maintenance issues that go with that. So you're talking about a roof that you've got that you're going to raise money for.
We're committing to raising $100,000
and HVAC, and then there'll be ongoing maintenance costs after that. So I just want to make sure that you're prepared for that.
Our goal is to keep the county's expenses at $50,000 for the the lease arrangement that we have, and then keep the annual maintenance under $10,000 a year.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Richardson?
I'm not sure who I'm addressing, but between the two of you, you have other users of this building besides you?
Yes, Hotbots and WeCare.
Do they pick up any of the expenses?
Hotbots pays for some of their internet access. WeCare, Matthew, I don't think they are there because the county asked that they be allowed to come there. And so there is no financial arrangement with WeCare.
But in the future, you're looking for other opportunities to basically gather rent. Is that correct, from other users?
Not necessarily rent. We would have to have a usage policy, but thinking in terms of a venue to have larger events, some of them could be financed in a way where the space could be rented, or I think more in terms of events that you charge admission for, like we have in the past. We've had events.
Sure. Have you made assessments of how much this might bring you?
Not at this point, no. Our goal right now is to get over this hurdle of the HVAC system. Without a new HVAC system, we're not going to exist.
Yeah, we want you to get over that hurdle too, but it'd be helpful to have a better idea of these money. Have you approached other folks for grants like Duke Power, Volkswagen? You know about Volkswagens?
Not Volkswagen, no.
Well, we see these come through the internet, and recently Duke Power had a solicitation for grant requests, and there's also some money out here from Volkswagens. Have you asked anybody else for grant money?
Do you answer that?
Yeah, in the past 2 years, we've received 11 grants for various different educational and archive projects. One of them is from Duke Energy for one of our programs recently, which part of it is going to education. So yes, we are looking not just locally, but statewide and federal, hence the National Endowment for the Humanities.
The Duke Energy grant is our most recent one. It was $25,000 in December.
I'm ready to make.
Okay, well, I've got a couple of things I'd like to just mention and point out, and perhaps some questions. Jeff, I believe the slide, the $100,000, is that the total amount y'all are, it says roof and plumbing repairs. So once you have the roof and the plumbing repairs and the HVAC, you feel like that's really the main needs of the building, and it's really in real good shape at that point for what you're using it for?
That's our assessment with our usage, yes.
Okay. And I know there was, and this is more for our fellow board members, I know there was some discussion about perhaps the museum relocating to another facility. And certainly, I think what we've got to think about is if they do relocate, we've still got the building. And at that point, we've got to make a decision what to do with the building, whether to keep it, whether to tear it down, whether to sell it. Got to make a decision there. There's certainly cost associated with all of that. The other thing is if they're in the building and they make the improvements to the building, although we're looking at putting in $400,000, then ultimately we've got a much more valuable asset if perhaps they're not able to meet their needs and continue on in the future. So that's the other part to think about as far as when we talk about the impact on the taxpayer. It certainly is, if you look at it as far as what the tenant is doing, I know we're putting a good amount in, but they're also putting in hopefully a couple of $100,000 with the grant and what they raise. Then we've got an asset that's worth a whole lot more than it is now, and I think it's money that actually benefits us in the long run. Commissioner Hall, I heard some stuff about, wash your hands of it.
Yes.
I know I've discussed some things with each of you kind of individually. Are we looking at continuing to lease this? Are we looking at deeding the property? What exactly are we looking at doing?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
We've discussed with the museum folks the option to take ownership of the building, have the county donate that building to the museum, and to date, they have not been willing to accept the gift of the museum.
Right. We feel like that the same reasons that you don't want the building are the same reasons we wouldn't want the building, and that sounds unusual, but the liability to us is much greater than the liability would be to the county to retain ownership. And second, the state law allows the county to donate property to a nonprofit that conducts business that's allowed the county to conduct. But when that action ceases or that operation ceases, the property reverts back to the county. And so the question to us would be, how is it an asset to us if we don't actually, I don't think it's the legal ownership, but if the property is not ours to put up for collateral, we wouldn't be able to use it as an asset for loans, or if something, in the worst case scenario, if we were to go bankrupt, then it's not an asset to sell. It goes back to the county.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I know this had come up. Mr. Manager, do you know if, did we find out any information confirming that? Can you tell?
Council.
Yes, Mr. Hall, we had looked into that. Unless you have a reversion clause in the deed, I'm not unaware of anything by law that will automatically revert. So,
Yeah, that's what would have to be in the deed if we gifted it to them. And I know Mr. Bullins is familiar with that because it happened in Mayadan with the library. And I guess the question is, what is allowed as far as mortgaging the property and waiving that in some capacity? And I don't know the answer to that right off the top of my head, but.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
So there's several county offices that store stuff in that building at the present time. And I think that there's been some discussion about maybe modifying your lease, approving this action tonight if the board chooses to do that, modifying your current lease so that you handle the maintenance and repairs. But I don't believe that we can break that up and give you the building in its current state, because there's a house, I think, that's still on the property. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's at least one.
Maybe two.
Maybe two.
It's one thing that while it's been talked about deeding property to the museum, there was never a discussion of what property was being discussed, whether it was everything on that parcel of land. Did it include the jail across the street? Did it include, all the parking lots, the grassy area, the houses? None of that was discussed. But, just thinking in terms of the building, that's not a liability that we can assume right now.
But are you willing to accept, if the board was to so choose to do this, a modification to your lease with this money and the consideration that you're going to take care of the maintenance going forward in that building until you can't, and this county would have some section of it, because we're giving you $50,000 and $10,000, I think, up to in repairs. So if we just said, and I don't know what the board's going to do, I'm just throwing this out to you. So if the county was given space to utilize to store our files and stuff that we have to do, and we were to approve this for you tonight with also with the $60,000 per year, is that something that you think your organization would be? Because we're giving you 50 and 10 for repairs, 50 for whatever when they approved it before. So if this board were to say, we're going to approve this tonight, we're going to give you this money for the HVAC, but we're going to modify your lease that you take care of all the repairs. You're going to allow us to store there. In addition to that, we're going to give you the $60,000 that we've ultimately been giving you anyway. It's 50 and 10, right?
Yeah, it's
so
part of the lease.
Is that, I'm just asking, that has been, I know that's something that's been discussed. Is that something that your organization would be interested in?
The current lease, well, all the leases, including the current one, have required $50,000 from the county to go towards utilities, and then maintenance, as there's a phrase in there. It's prudent. I can't remember the terminology now, but the county, does provide incidental maintenance is what we've thought of it as in the past, and typically it's been under $10,000, some years less than $6,000. What I think we would prefer is to keep the current lease, which is effective till September 30th, 2025, and then if there are other arrangements, that would be the time to negotiate that and figure that out. But, their lease is only for the courthouse, it's not for the jail. At this point, all we can do is, ask for the HVAC system to be fixed so that we can stay in operation.
Mr. Chair, so the lease with, I guess the thought process was if we turned the property over, we turned the whole courthouse/jail facility over to them. But if we keep it as is, they're only leasing correct me if I'm wrong, is the courthouse portion. correct?
Well, the courthouse portion and some portion of the.
Where the ag
whole
center,
sheriff's department,
the ag
where-
part is, but the rest of it's the county property. So if we wanted to do storage in there, that's up to us, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was over there, isn't there an old wagon or something in the old evidence room in the sheriff's
Right,
department?
and
So are
that-
you leasing that?
That's carved out in the lease, yes.
I got you, okay. But there's nothing that says, Mr. Chair, there's nothing that says tonight that we couldn't, if you were agreeable to it, I mean, we could not amend the lease to include the things that we've talked about here, since we're talking about giving you $487,000.
Well, the limitation is, it requires 90-day notice.
I got you.
Based on the terms of the current lease.
And you're not giving us $487,000, you're giving it to yourselves to fix the building that the county
For you.
owns. It's for the benefit of at least 3 organizations and the citizens of Rockingham County.
Mr. Chair, just a reminder, these quotes are 2 years old. So the costs are probably a lot higher according to what we've looked into.
Well, they're not 2 years old, but, because it hasn't been quite 2 years since we came and asked you to do the
How old are
study.
those
So they're,
quotes? At least a year? Okay, I apologize, at least a year.
Okay.
Well,
The additional cost that they will need to fundraise, if that's the case.
Mr. Chair.
yes, sir.
Bottom line, despite what you say about improving our investment, which we can't get away with, it's still taxpayer money, and we're still talking about $487,000 plus dollars. That's about 3/4 of a penny of taxpayers' money. And you are not absolutely sure about your potential returns, be it grants or leased or rented space, whatever you want to call it. So those things are kind of nebulous and undetermined at this point.
but at this point, we have a track record that we didn't have 10 years ago.
Congratulations. That said, Mr. Chair, I know that Mark has done a lot of good things for the county in terms of salvation of our history and preservation of our archives, and there is public support in general, particularly public support for not moving the Mark out of Wentworth and the existing building. But the bottom line is, I think it's cheaper to repair the building than to tear it down. Therefore, I move we approve this 487, but with the caveat that our county manager can review the memorandum of agreement and seek those sort of assurances that you've heard other members of this board bring up.
Okay. So we have a motion to approve. I just want to clarify, because the number I'm looking at is at 487.5 as far as the county contribution.
According to the grant, yes, sir.
Motion for 487.5 or 487 even?
I think it is for 487. I know we normally give you a 10% leeway, but I would prefer that you bring back adjustments, since you quite rightly pointed out that this 487 estimate is 2 years old.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, I'm just looking at that number.
Yes.
But didn't you just say that?
He corrected me. He's correct. It is a year old, but it's at least a year old, and the prices have gone up for supplies.
So you're talking about $487,500.
That's what I'm talking about, without 10%.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that with, I don't know how we need to do it, but with the understanding that the Mark has committed to raise the $100,000 for roof and plumbing repairs as well, and that the county, that's the limit of our investment at the moment.
And you may adjust my motion to include what Commissioner Hall has said.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Chair, and the question still remains, if the cost is more than $650,000, is it their responsibility to fundraise for the remainder of the amount?
But my understanding here was the stuff in red that includes 487,500 was our portion of the National Endowment for the Humanities grant, and that's why that figure is there.
That's correct.
I'm not trying to presume on the total costs or escalation in prices. Mr. Powell and Mr. Hall would be far better prepared to talk about that than me.
Well, and what I've heard earlier from at least Commissioner Hall is his preference was to give this amount and the rest be on the museum to do anything over and above that.
Right.
Other than the annual contribution.
That's right. Right, we'll continue the $50,000 a year that we pay, and we'll continue to provide the maintenance in kind that costs about 10 grand or whatever.
Okay. So I've got a motion and a second to approve the matching grant, and I believe I'm understanding any additional funds would be the responsibility of the museum over and above that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So any further discussion before I call for the vote? Hearing none, all in favor, let it be known by the sound of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you. We appreciate
Thank you.
your support. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Do we need to clarify? I just want to make sure. You had also mentioned something about the $100,000 as a condition.
They had the $100,000 for the roofing and plumbing that they were going to be responsible for. So, I'd ask that be included in that motion.
Yes. Okay.
Is that was your understanding? You heard me say that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We can agree to the 100,000. You don't need to agree to the difference in the 650,000 because y'all allocate 487.5. That's all you allocate. We like to
Right.
Yes.
Exactly. Very good. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, they can confirm and get with Ronnie on that. I think that was just a rough estimate. He can get actually more details for you guys when you have an opportunity. Matthew, if you'll just contact Ronnie, he'll get with you.
But the grant figures are finite.
480, yes, 487.5.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
But before we move on, I would like to say, I mentioned to Jeff and Matthew earlier, I'd heard from several of your supporters via email who were unable to attend tonight. So I do appreciate hearing from members of the public as well, whether it's via phone, email, whatever. So we do appreciate that input. Thank you,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Chair.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on to item 9, that's Telemon Corporation.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. She should be, Ms. Franks should be available via Zoom to answer any questions. And I would ask Ms. Franks if she would limit it to no more than 10 minutes.
I think that's being very generous from a time standpoint. Yes, sir.
5 minutes.
Yes.
Good evening, Commissioners. Hopefully you all can hear me okay. This evening I am just joining to review our program year 2022-2023 application for Project Pride or our community service block grant funding. This funding is specifically to support low-income families in education and training and support services, as well as providing access to wraparound services as needed. At this time, we currently have allocated for Rockingham County for this current program year, $201,638. So as you can see, we will have an increase, our allocations increase for program year 2022, specifically for Rockingham County to up to $268,812,000. With this change, we are currently proposing to serve 47 families. However, in the future, we will be serving 88 Rockingham County families. So the additional allocation will allow us to serve more customers. And our goals are specifically around our number of families served, obtaining employment, securing housing, being provided educational or employment supports, even including work experience internships. So that provides an overview of where our funding comes from and how we provide our services. We do currently have 3 career advisor staff, 2 community service block grant staff in Reedsville at the NC Works Career Center, and 1 team member that specifically provides funding for our CARES program, which is emergency services for those in need related to that have been affected by coronavirus. So that provides just an overview of our application, and I'm willing to answer any questions if needed.
Anyone have any questions at this point?
No. How many, you're serving 47 families, did I hear that correct, out of $201,638? Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct for this current program year. Our goal is to serve 75 families with our current funding, and 47 of those are Rockingham County families.
How much on average do you spend on these families? So I'm looking for, out of your total budget, how much is actually going to 47 families?
So our cost per participant ranges based on their particular need. We average right now right around 3,000 to 5,000. And again, that's specifically customized based on the individual goals that they set when they enter into our program. So some may be specifically seeking childcare resources or housing assistance. Some may be coming to us specifically for assistance with tuition in their education or being provided opportunities to receive books or cover supplies if they are going into educational programs. So we really customize it based on what those goals are set specifically for that individual. And I can get a clearer cost per participant if that would be helpful.
Well, so I'm just looking at the numbers. If you do the 3,000 per individual, per family, you're at 141,000. And if you do the 5,000, you're at 235,000, which is over your budget.
Yes, sir. I can definitely get that average cost per participant again, just to slim down that range. And again, that is customized based on what that individual need is.
I understand.
Well, I know Commissioner Powell, I had asked that question when they asked to be on the agenda, and we were given a total figure of around $68,000 as far as actually going to the residents, which is a very small percentage of what they're actually showing on here.
So you've got $201,638 and you're spending $68,000 of it on actual families? Is that the information you received?
I can't remember the total amount, but I do read the 68 sticks out in my mind. I see Mr. Metzler flipping through.
Correct.
68,000 was actually going to the families.
And the rest was for overhead and salaries and benefits.
So based on these numbers, you're paying yourself more than you're doing help for the families in Rockingham County. Is that correct?
We do currently have program staff. I believe we have 5 program staff that we are currently serving this program. And again, our services for families at some level, they may not need financial assistance. They may need access to additional resources. So we still provide that service with connecting them to the resources. To answer your question, I believe that our direct services is about a 60-40 split between admin and direct client services, which has been the same for, I think, for about the past 3 years. And I can get some clear information on that if we need to come back to that.
Mr.
Chair.
Yes, sir, Commissioner.
Is there some other training or counseling services or other things that you provide to these families that are not direct dollars given out on behalf?
Can you further explain what you mean by direct or by
Well,
training?
in other words, you said rental assistance or child care assistance, other dollar amounts that are going out, but do you provide counseling that's included in this $201,000 or training or other educational services to help people to change their lot in life?
Yes, sir. So through Telemon Corporation, our current team members do offer career and guidance counseling services. They are, their title is career advisor. So they do provide labor market information, very similar to some of the services that are provided through the NC Works Career Center. But they work with customers individually to put together that individualized employment plan. They outline the goals with that customer and help them to take gradual steps to their career progress.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, at the risk of revealing some ignorance there, I need a little more help, if you would, about what these 5 employees do. Does that include you, by the way?
Yes, sir.
So the 5 of you take care of 47 families from Rockingham County. I'm interested in what you physically do, because I can tell you in our social services program over here, and they're stretched thin right now, but in round figures, each one of those folks is one person is taking care of 30 families.
Yes, sir, absolutely. So we do have myself as well as our deputy director. We are not fully billed to this grant. We are billed across other programs that are offered through Telemon Corporation. So while we provide a level of oversight, our program coordinator and our career advisors, and currently our program coordinator position is vacant. So our career advisors are providing that direct service. They are billed 100% to this program. So they are providing those direct services. Myself as a director and our deputy director, we provide oversight as far as following guidelines, promoting policy to make sure we're following our funders' guidelines from the Office of Economic Opportunity, and also to make sure that our team gets the support that they need to provide all of these initiatives locally within the Rockingham County, Caswell, and Preston.
Well, I'm interested. Surely you have some metrics to indicate what you're getting for your investment in time and money.
By metrics, can I ask what type of metrics you might be looking for?
In the most basic sense, a metric would be the situation, the status of the 47 families when they start getting your help and what they look like after getting your help.
Absolutely, yes, sir. So we do follow those families when they enter into our programs. We do have a goal for families that reach a level of self-sufficiency. We also track goals towards employment, including gaining employment that includes medical benefits. So we do have specific goals around those things, and we track their progress upon exit and after they exit our programs.
I think you're missing. I'm asking what those figures are.
Yes, sir. I can get those specific goals for you. If you'll get those pulled up. And I may be calling on our career advisor, Latoya Carter, who has also joined us this evening.
Any of you, that'd be grateful. But if my memory serves me well, Commissioner Berger asked for that very thing last year.
All righty, let me get that.
Just an FYI for the commissioners, this group doesn't need the board's approval to proceed. She's just supposed to present to you all.
Okay. I'm well aware of that. I'm just interested in taxpayer money.
Yes, sir.
Now, take that back. I'm also interested in her clients because I want the world to be better for her clients after Telemon does what it does.
Yes, sir.
And I may be able to narrow that question down a little bit. Commissioner Richardson may be asking for more than this, but what's the average time one of your clients stays within your system?
Our average time at this time, maybe we have maybe about 30% that we carry over between program years. So right around 12 months, I think most of our participants are able to reach the majority of their goals. This may also include customers that may move out of the 3 county areas that we serve. If they choose to reside in another county, we are no longer able to provide those services. So we are looking at about an average of 12 months, but that does not include customers that choose to move.
Okay.
More questions?
Commissioner Powell, you said that you had a question.
Yeah, so at the, doing the math on this based on what the information you've given the county in the past, the $68,000 that you're spending on your clients, that's 33% out of this. So 77% is going to overhead and salaries. Does that not seem a little lopsided?
I am not specifically sure what you are referring to. Is this the county budget breakdown?
Well, a while ago, you were telling us that you thought it was like 60-40. I'm assuming 60% supposed to go to the clients and 40% to you all, or maybe you can clarify that. But based on the numbers that you've submitted to the county, $201,638 that you have in your budget, and the county, you gave information to the county that you'd spent $68,000 of that on actual clients. That's only 33%. So you're spending 33% of your budget on actual families. That seems a little low to me.
Yes, sir. So I think I understand what you're stating at this point. When we offered our program breakdown by county, what we offered to the county commissioner's office was a breakdown of our current program year budget by county. So you may be seeing, and again, without knowing specifically what you're looking at, you may be seeing the breakdown by county of our current program year allocation. And our current program year allocation would be the $201,638 for Rockingham County. We do not have that budget breakdown for this coming year, but we were able to provide it for our current program year. I hope I'm making sense.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Commissioner.
Item 1C, in their application, they say the participants provide direct input via customer service satisfaction surveys. Have you provided us with those surveys, or summation of those surveys?
We have not at this time.
Can you elaborate on the kind of the results of those satisfaction surveys?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Thank
our
you.
customer satisfaction surveys are completed as a part of our community assessment. And Latoria, you may want to jump in here, but they are completed as a part of our community assessment. They are provided to the Office of Economic Opportunity. That community assessment is updated every 3 years. And we reach out locally to customers that are currently in our program or have previously been in our program, and with a standardized assessment of how they receive services, what services were received, and we provide that as a part of our strategic plan for where we want to focus our program services in the future. Latoya, feel free to add any to that.
Yes, we after each client is about to get terminated or discharged, we do ask the clients to participate in a survey, and they can do it anonymously. They don't have to, put any information on it. And we, at the time, submitted them to our program coordinator. So we didn't actually get to see the results. She would tell us an overall view of the results from the surveys.
Yeah, that's kind of my question is, what are the overall results of those surveys? I mean, do you have a high satisfaction rate, low, medium?
Yes, it is a high satisfaction rate. And they also, if they had people they wanted to refer at that time, they also referred clients to us from those surveys. So they were satisfied, and they also referred others to us to get help as well.
Thank you, Ms. Carter.
Okay. Any further questions? We're good? All right. Thank you, Ms. Franks, and thank you, Ms. Carter. I believe that concludes Section 9 on the agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, as Mr. Metzler said earlier, does not require any action on our part. And this is just a presentation they're required to make to let you know how your federal tax dollars are being spent. Next is Derek Southern.
Thank you, Mr. Biden.
Yep.
Talk about the broadband initiative that we started several years ago. And I'll go through, explain a part about the brief history of how we've got to where we are today, what we're doing with the proposal tonight, and then the actions that we need to move forward. So as you guys identified back in 2018 as one of the priorities for the county was the expansion of broadband so people could work remotely, attend school, receive virtual medical care, grow our businesses, and modernize our farms. So as part of this endeavor, we started through a timeline of working through different initiatives here at the county to move forward with our broadband. One of the major milestones on here was our efforts early on to identify address points. That has been the biggest pain point in our last 4 years of finding out what citizens do not have internet. And it's been very fruitful for us through the process. It allowed us to work with vendors that applied for grants that came down through the state through the Great Grant Program. We were able to provide data which allowed them to move quickly and apply for grants which we received. We received grants in this area when there were no other counties around us receiving those grants. Most of it was down east where it was wireless internet. So we already have great grants here providing fiber internet, and some of those actually successfully completed back in December of this year. Other milestones were we reached out when we realized that federal funding would be coming down. When we realized that back in June and July, we started reaching out to partners here because we wanted to make a full effort of trying to attack our entire county and not just one sub area. So we reached out in the late summer, early fall to Reidsville Area Foundation, the Rockingham County Schools, and RCC to discuss becoming a partner with us to make sure that we move forward with this endeavor. So those efforts led to us of releasing the RFP and receiving those results in late fall through the early part of December. What that result came back to us was the results from Charter Spectrum. They came back with an offer of 3,250 address points at a minimum, fiber internet to the home, so that's up to a gig. So that was one of the things that was intriguing through this is not just solving the problem for today, this is solving the problem for many years to come with fiber internet. They also honored an expedited process to try to get this done in 2 years. As part of that, they also had received a federal grant, and they're also going to honor that 2-year timeline on that federal grant as part of this. The federal grant had a 6-year requirement on it, but as part of this agreement, they're going to expedite the federal grant that they received. Also, they have low-income offerings, and they've partnered with federal government, and they have for the free and reduced lunch program is what most people call it, that they can go as low as $17.99. And some of the programs today, if they apply, they actually could receive it free until the grants end. What they're offering is a project plan of a little over $14 million total project. Part of that contribution is roughly $10.4 million will be from Spectrum, which is 72% of the project, and they're asking for a county or partner contribution of $3.985 million. So for that amount of money, that's roughly going to get us 3,250 address points that do not have broadband internet today. And that is at a minimum. And I'll show you why I say it's at a minimum. This is the map of the county, and one of the reasons we chose Spectrum. The red dots are the 3,250 address points that we discussed. If you will notice in those, around those red dots are yellow lines. They call those node boundaries. Any address point that does not have internet inside that will also be eligible as part of this. So that number most likely will go up. The reason we know these address points are those are address points are we are confident they're eligible for funding, because there's regulations that we can't fund anything that someone has 25 meg or 25 meg down or 3 meg up. We can't fund it if they have over that. But we know some of those maps are incorrect. So inside those node boundaries, we're confident we're going to find additional address points. Some great examples is up above Eden. There's just a couple dots, but there's
several square miles of area inside that node boundary, so the expectation is we will find additional address points. Another enticing thing about their plan is they honored the unknown. This is the first endeavor that Spectrum has reached with us. We know because of the unserved areas, the lack of maps, the lack of accurate maps, and the overstated speeds from other vendors. We know there's areas where they say they provide this, but it's not true. So they are agreeing, as we find additional address points along this, as long as they're in by the end of 2023, they will enter into a 2-year agreement for an extension of this to honor adding additional address points outside of the original scope of this. Today, part of this commitment is roughly $1.7 million from what we're asking for tonight that will be put in a fund to fund those as we find those. And I have a rate chart here that basically gives us what our predetermined rates are for houses that we find in these unknown areas. And it basically goes from the one house that may be miles off the road would be a negotiated rate all the way to, if it's greater than 20 houses per mile, they will do it for free as part of this. A lot of project first for this. This is exciting for Rockingham County. We're the first county that's going to provide funding to all the unknown areas in the county. There's a lot of counties that have tacked small areas, but we went after the entire county. We're the first to offer the local grants. Due to state budgets laws that passed in December, it allows us to do this. We're the first one to endeavor in that. And we're the first county to form partnerships and bring in just not the county, but partners from throughout the county to make this happen. And what we have committed today is Rockingham County government for $3.25 million, Reidsville Area Foundation for $1.5 million, Rockingham County Schools for $1 million, and to be determined later when their board meets for what the commitment will be from Rockingham Community College. At this point, I'd like to stop and just answer any questions, or if you have questions for Joe Prater from Spectrum before we move to the steps we'll need to move forward tonight.
Mr. Chair, first of all, I'd like to just say that Derek doesn't brag on himself enough, but he's a champion. I mean, he started this thing in 2018. The state DIT looks to him to answer questions. Even the School of Government calls him often to answer questions. He started this project with Paul at the very beginning, and they've done a fantastic job. Joe can tell you we're the first in the state of North Carolina that's done such a spectacular effort in doing this. So Derek deserves a lot of credit for this.
Thank you, Lance. And yes, don't take this the wrong way, but I don't think you thanked him enough.
No, sir. You're exactly right.
For all that he's done to get us to this point, because I don't think it's any secret that if it wasn't for Derek's efforts and the data that he's collected over time, that we probably wouldn't be sitting here today talking about this at this point in time. So thank you, Derek.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any questions on what's been presented? No? Okay.
I'm sorry, I glazed over one, but I do want to make sure it's clear. This was a big one with negotiating with contract. There are residents that live further than 2,000 feet off the main line, and I do want to be clear that any resident that lives further than 2,000 feet off the main line, it will be some expense on the citizen. But anything less than that is covered in this plan.
Gotcha. Yes, sir.
What is the main line? Is that the street, the public street?
It would be not necessarily the public street. It could be the power line that runs through the main area. There's some cases, but most cases it will be street.
Okay.
Are you saying they're all overhead lines, Joe?
There will be overhead lines and buried underground fiber. Yes. It depends on the area of the need.
My question just hit me considering the weather of the last couple of days.
Wherever power goes, whatever route they've taken, whether it's aerial or underground, we usually follow power.
You know there's a drawback with that.
I believe that would be their cost.
Yeah, but somebody's going to be out of broadband coverage while it's being repaired.
Yes. Okay, if any further questions? If not, then I believe we've got 3 separate items to deal with.
Yes, and I'll read through the motions, but again, I just want to make sure that we all realize that this is a huge deal for Rockingham County. We're going to try to have a press release or press conference next week with the schools, community college, the Regional Area Foundation, Spectrum, to get the word out, because I want the Mecklenburgs to hear it, the Wakes to hear how advanced Rockingham County, even though we're rural, we're still progressive. So I want to make sure that they understand how progressive we are. With that being said, you've got 3 motions for consideration, and I'll read those. If you all would consider a motion for a budget amendment to transfer $3,250,000 of ARPA funds to the general fund Sheriff's Department salary line item. This amendment also transfers $3,250,000 of currently appropriated local funding from the Sheriff's Department salary line item to non-departmental reserve line item. This will clearly show our intent of using ARPA dollars for public safety salaries and eligible use of ARPA funds under the revenue replacement category for the federal laws, which then allows us to transfer local dollars originally budgeted in the Sheriff's Department for salaries to unappropriated reserve for future use in line item.
Okay, so motion by Commissioner Richardson. And just for clarity, that's $3,250,000 as far as that figure, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, now second by Commissioner Powell. All in favor, let it be known by the sound of aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Next motion to consider is a budget amendment to appropriate funding for the broadband contract of $5,770,000 funded by the county's appropriation of available local funding, a transfer from non-departmental reserve line item fund that was funded under item number 1 in the amount of $3,250,000, the Reasonable Area Foundation grant of $1.5 million, and the Rockingham County School commitment of $1 million.
Motion by Commissioner Hall. Second by Commissioner Powell. All in favor, let it be known by the sound of aye. Aye. Any opposed?
And then the final is consideration of a motion of a grant project ordinance amendment for the ARPA funds to approve the use and designation of $3,250,000 as revenue replacement to be used on general government services.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Powell.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Richardson. All in favor, let it be known by the sound of aye. Aye. Any opposed? I believe that takes care of everything.
One more item.
Okay.
We need a motion to approve the contract provided you for Spectrum.
Okay.
Motion, we approve the contract provided by Spectrum.
Motion by Commissioner Hall.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Richardson. All in favor, let it be known by the sound of aye. Aye. Any opposed? Derek, thank you for all your work. Thank you to Spectrum for partnering with us and allowing us to be the first county in North Carolina to accomplish this. Also, a big thank you to the organizations that have elected to partner with us. That's the Reedsville Area Foundation, Rockingham County Schools, and Rockingham Community College. It's truly a good thing for Rockingham County that we could all work together. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I'd also like to thank Joe with Spectrum for being here tonight. I know the weather's kind of rough, but appreciate you being here to answer any questions that they come up. Thank you guys for y'all's participation in this. Thank you, Derek.
All right. Thank you. Next, item 11, Lance Metzler.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Board of Commissioners. Gentlemen, you have a memorandum from me outlining the ARPA funds that we intended to receive from both the state and federal funds totaling $27,677,626. Management is recommending that you designate tentative areas where to utilize those funds, and they are towards the water and sewer infrastructure projects, the broadband initiative you just approved, the premium pay and the EMS shift bonus that you all previously approved. Just a caveat, the U.S. Treasury has just recently made some changes in the ARPA funds and how they could be used. So we're analyzing the best recommendations to you all, but right now, these are the best recommendations thus far. Again, future recommendations may be subject to change, but I would ask that you all consider to approve management's recommendation on utilization of these funds received through the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, a question. I attended a environmental steering committee meeting and it was DEQ. Anyhow, they talked about millions and millions, billions of dollars that were going to be devoted to both supplying water and wastewater disbursement. In their conversation, all the monies they were talking about are separate from the 27 million that you're talking about. I just wanted a clarification on that.
As Kevin, he may know more than that about this, but I just know the 10 million is part of the ARPA funds from the federal, but I think there's a lot more in reserve that can be utilized for things such as you're talking about.
Well, I need to talk to you guys later about that. At this point, I was just confirming that your conversation didn't include those monies that DEQ was talking about.
Not that I'm aware of.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Richardson.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Powell. All in favor, let it be known by the sound of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any items of new business?
No, sir.
All right. Commissioner comments, we'll start with Commissioner Powell.
No comment.
Okay, Commissioner Hall.
Well, again, I appreciate all the contacts that people had made to us regarding this museum thing today. I enjoy hearing from the public. It's good to know people are interested in things, so thank you for reaching out. Your input does make a difference. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Richardson.
First, I'd like to recognize, though they have departed the scene, Councilman James Festerman, who attended our meeting tonight, and Vicki Austin from our school board, and Dennis Pascal from the Wentworth board as well. So our appreciation to all of you there. And of course, I'd like to encourage the public in general to be cautious considering the inclement weather, more predicted Thursday evening, I believe. Safety in driving and an awareness of who may be suffering from the very cold temperatures coming up this weekend. So.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here tonight and those at home for tuning in. Also want to, again, thank Derek and Spectrum, Joe, for all of your hard work, as well as the partners that we had or have moving forward to get this accomplished with providing internet to our citizens. Then, as far as what's next, we're looking for a motion to recess this meeting till February the 7th at 1:30. That's a commissioner retreat here in the commissioner chambers. And then later that night would be the regularly scheduled meeting at 6:30. So do we have a motion to recess this meeting?
Motion to recess.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Powell. All in favor, let it be known by the sound of aye.
Aye.
We stand in recess.